Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 7th episode of the all-inclusive Mega Man X retrospective. This time, I have another unsuspecting guest along. Introduce yourself, good sir.
Hello everyone, I'm Frank the Game & Tank, and I'm excited to be a part of this retrospective. So, what game are we looking at this time?
Well, before we can move on to the worst game ever, we have to cover Mega Man Xtreme 2 for the Game Boy Color. So, without further ado, I just want to start by mentioning the fact that this game was released after the launch of the Game Boy Advance. Reason I'm saying this is because in history, Capcom has released several Mega Man games after the console's commercial relevance, and this is the same deal here. I just don't understand why they would do that, since I'm assuming that this would lead to more money spent in development than money earned in profit, since both this and Xtreme 1 are the two worst-selling Mega Man X games ever. Yes, that includes the X Collection, Maverick Hunter X, and X Command Mission. So in other words, the other 11 games sold way better. So in general, I don't even know why this game was made given the awful sales of the first one. But without wasting any more time, even though watching a video about Mega Man Xtreme 2 is doing just that, let us start with the storyline. To begin with, I'm honestly not sure what the story is really about. I watched the cutscenes and paid attention, and the story was mostly in one ear and out the other for me, which would be fine, but it's not for a reason to be discovered in a few minutes. So after a quick wiki search, the plot goes down like this.
All over the globe, Replades are having their memories and personalities erased, and all traces are leading back to Lagoo's Island. X and Zero make their way to the Replade Research Laboratory.
They're aided by Iris, since this game takes place after Mega Man X3 and before X4, and so they use this as an opportunity to show us X and Zero interacting with her before the whole Repliforce incident in X4. After that, X and Zero discover that the old Mavericks they defeated are back. Since their programming was taken, they have been brought back yet again to wreak havoc.
We have two new villains, Gareth and Bracana, and they are the ringleaders behind the Eraser incident. Not much character outside of that though. Oh, by the way, Sigma's back because Bracana and Gareth bring him back. Bet you didn't see that coming.
On paper, I really don't care about this plot since it's just nonsense. Literally, we've spent like 20 minutes trying to figure out what the hell is going on because the villain's plan makes no sense. The real issue comes from the cutscenes. Remember how Xtreme 1 carried on with stupid soap opera drama when no one cared? And the story is only really there just to excuse the fact that they rehashed levels from X1 and X2? But at the same time, you still couldn't skip the cutscenes? I guess you'll be glad to hear that this game does absolutely nothing to fix these issues. The cutscenes in this game are kryptonite, since they drag on for like 5 minutes and nothing of interest is happening while exposition is being dumped upon the player. The game also takes itself just as stupidly seriously as the first game. To be fair, there aren't any cringeworthy death scenes in this game, however there are still unskippable cutscenes, so I am led to believe that the developers want the players to be interested in it. But if you care about the story of a Mega Man X game on the Game Boy Color, be my guest. But I don't know why they think everyone cares. This is not a game that's story-driven and, has interesting characters and good dialogue.
Overall, the story wouldn't be so bothersome if the cutscenes were skippable. If not, make them shorter so the player can continue through the game without having to wait what feels like an eternity.
Well said. At the very least, the characters are in character, so that checks out. But other than that, moving on to the gameplay. I played through Mega Man Xtreme 2 4 times, but at the end of the day, I can keep this fairly brief. At the beginning, you have the choice between the X playthrough and a Zero playthrough. This serves as the exact same function as the hard mode, normal mode fiasco from the last game. Here, I like the idea of giving X 4 stages and Zero 4 stages as opposed to giving it unnecessary difficulty labels. Starting with X's playthrough, returning bosses are Launch Octopus and Flame Mammoth from X1, and Volt Catfish and Neon Tiger from X3. Since Xtreme 1 gave us 4 stages to X1 and X2, we only get 2 Mavericks from each of those games, and the bulk of this game's roster is from X3. Although a major improvement this time around is that the level design is actually unique from their console counterparts. Launch Octopus is practically identical, as is Flame Mammoth, but on that note I'll also mention the fact that this level, since there are no level changes here, is always filled with lava. Volt Catfish's stage is the electricity element from the original, but also the level design from Toxic Seahorse's stage. And Neon Tiger is the same deal since it resembles Sting Chameleon from X1 as well as entirely new set pieces.
This isn't always a good thing. Take Volt Catfish's level for example. Halfway through the level, rushing water comes from the side and can push X into spikes. After that, the rushing water is combined with electricity which can lead to an instant kill. This wouldn't be much of a problem, but the small screen resolution makes it so the reaction time has to be really quick or else you'll die.
In terms of collectibles, Xtreme 2 has 4 heart tanks in each playthrough, 1 sub-tank in addition to 4 light capsules. The armor in this game mixes and matches parts from the last 3 games, like the foot parts from the third armor, and the head parts of the first, the arm parts and chest parts of the second armor, etc. So if you've seen my videos on those games, then I shouldn't need to re-explain what these parts do. Lastly, before we move on to Zero's playthrough, it's worth mentioning that in Xtreme 2, like X5 before it, has an option for auto-fire and auto-charge, which mostly speaks for itself, so it saves you the trouble of activating that stuff in your emulator settings. Wait, what did I say?
Zero's playthrough has 4 returning bosses from the previous X games. Wire Sponge and Overdrive from X2, and Tunnel Rhino and Blast Hornet from X3. Like X's levels, these aren't all copied from the original games, except Wire Sponge. Blast Hornet stage is not a warehouse, but it takes place in an air fleet. Biggest problem being the leaps of faith the player must perform in order to get through. Tunnel Rhinos is in a cave, but with a different layout. Overdrive Ostrich's stage has you spending most of the time indoors. Sand will shoot out in a whirlwind from a machine on the ground. Touching the whirlwind is an instant kill. These are easy to avoid, but I think making them an instant kill is a harsh punishment.
I agree that it's a harsh punishment, although like you said, I find it really easy to dodge.
In Tunnel Rhino stage, there's a brief section in the cave that introduces Rising Fire, similar to the Rushing Water and Volt Catfish's level in X's playthrough, but it's not an instant death. This is a more appropriate penalty, rather than just instantly killing Zero. Even in Volt Catfish's level, as much as I think the Rushing Water is a stupid gimmick, it didn't kill X immediately. It was less harmful by only having water, then increased the difficulty by adding electricity later in the stage.
Similar to X's playthrough, Zero can collect 4 heart tanks, 1 sub-tank, as well as 4 Dr. Light capsules. Why are these capsules specifically for him? I don't really know, but whatever. These have basically the same functionality as X's armor parts, so there's not much more to say there. Xtreme 2 has a part system like X5, however, unlike X5, it's done in a way that isn't not convoluted. In the stages, X or Zero can find currency to buy parts with said currency. Parts include stuff like increasing the speed of X's Buster, or increasing the power or extending the range of the Z-Saber. I like how this works, however it leads to a big issue. Bosses in Xtreme 2 aren't particularly challenging with weaknesses, but if you buy a few parts from the shop, these bosses practically beat themselves to how easy they are. If you get both Buster upgrades, they die before you can even blink.
I agree. Special shout out to, Jay, what was his name again?
I don't remember, but I knew it beforehand anyway, but just to make you feel good, thank you to whoever you are for enlightening us on this matter. Once both playthroughs are completed, you unlock Extreme Mode, which functions how it did in the last game with both playthroughs being combined together. This is how I prefer to play Extreme 2 since I can experience everything in one run-through, one set of castle stages, etc. Here you can switch between the characters on the fly, which was a feature that Mega Man X7 was credited for introducing, but technically it made its debut here in Mega Man Xtreme 2.
As for the challenge in Extreme Mode, it's easier than the original mode. You just need to buy 2 Buster or Saber upgrades and the game practically beats itself. Now that leads us into the castle stages.
The first stage is fairly simple and resembles the second Sigma stage from the original Mega Man X. Unfortunately not complete with the music from it, but we do at least get the castle theme from X2. At the end we face Velgarder, who's not really a challenge at all. However, the second stage is really stupid since there are so many leaps of faith, spike traps, electricity in your way, as well as enemies and rising fire for good measure.
The Sphinx tank boss at the end has to be the worst boss in the game. First, you have to avoid the projectiles being shot at you. Second, you have to shoot the weak point, which is at the top and middle of the tank. Third, you have to use the moving platform to reach the boss's weak point. That third one isn't too bad until you see how much of the screen's real estate is being taken up by the Sphinx tank alone. On top of that, the platform isn't small, so there's very little room to move around. It also hits like a tank because it doesn't take much for it to kill you. The best way to take out this behemoth of BS is to go in with a full sub-tank and with full health. It's easier with X, but with Zero, you are required to jump into the damn thing to be lucky enough to land a hit.
In the normal playthroughs, the next level is the final one, and it sees X and Zero splitting up. X to defeat Berkana, and Zero to fight Gareth. The levels are extremely trial and error heavy, but both bosses at the end are just uninspired, since Zero's is extremely predictable. In addition to that, X's battle is just a war of attrition, both of which make it an unsatisfying ending to an unsatisfying game.
If you happen to die in this level, you have to sit through this one cutscene over and over again. Why should I have to sit through this every time I die?
No idea, but in Extreme Mode, we find out that Sigma was behind it, again. So you must refight the 8 Mavericks, which I would complain about it, but 1, bosses are a joke. And 2, what more can I add, since I've been saying this shite for 5 videos now, so I don't care to do it a 6th time. The Sigma fight then begins. The first phase is being ripped right out of X2, however, again, if you have the Buster upgrades, he can literally be killed in 30 seconds or so, thus beginning the final phase, which is entirely new. Shocking, I know. How it works is that he changes colors so that when he's blue, X can deal enough damage to the body to get a shot in on Sigma, and when he's red, the same goes for Zero. Easier said than done though, since I was on this guy for quite a while since he hits really hard and we only have 2 sub-tanks like the PS1 games, and some of his attacks are just undodgeable. At least from my experience they were. When he finally goes down, the game concludes with all the souls going free and the day being saved. In conclusion, this game, upon writing the script, the biggest issue I have became very apparent. This game is just incredibly forgettable. I really do appreciate the fact that the developers of Xtreme 2 cared enough about the lasting appeal of the game to make entirely new stages for these rehashed bosses, effort that the first Xtreme did not put in. Overall though, some of the moments of sloppy design, just a sense of blandness throughout, makes me believe that Mega Man Xtreme 2, while being better than the last game like I said, is still probably not worth your time and money. Neither one is bad, just not that great. Like Metropolis said about Mega Man Xtreme 1, these games had some novelty back when they were new, but now with X1 through X5 being on handhelds, this game, just like the last one, does not have much of a place in 2017. That's basically my take on these games. I don't dislike either one, but other than a potential Let's Play, I don't see myself replaying either one of these ever again. Which I cannot say for any other game in the series.
I agree, Jay. The biggest issue about the game is just how bland and forgettable the majority of the game's levels and bosses are. With the stages that have been altered or replaced entirely, they're just bland. As for the obstacles like the rushing water or the rising fire, it ruins the pacing of the levels they're in. There's a reason that these obstacles don't exist in Mega Man X 1 through 3 because they're just not that great. Like Jay said, Xtreme 2 doesn't have a place in 2017. It added new characters that were either killed off in this game or expanded upon characters that no one cared about to begin with.
So on the next episode of the all-inclusive Mega Man X retrospective, we'll be jumping to the 6th generation with Mega Man X7 for the PS2.
Really, Jay? X7 is next? After you trolled the fan base, you're really going to skip the game we all want you to review?
Oh, God. Well, looks like I can't put it off any further. You all know what's next. I'll see you guys for one of the worst games I've ever played. The Mega Man X card game!
Jay, stop.
Fine. Next up is Mega Man X6 for the PlayStation 1. In the meantime, where can they find you?
They can find me at youtube.com/GamingTank. I make game reviews as well as other gaming videos such as editorials and anything else. My videos tend to not go over 10 minutes, so if you prefer the shorter format, check out my channel.
With that said, I'll see you guys in the next video.
And until next time, I'm Exoparadigm Gamer, and I hope you enjoyed the review.
In the meantime, where can they find your crap channel?
Well, you fucker. They can find me at the best fucking YouTube channel ever.